para participar. Para los que son nuevos, que acá el día de hoy vamos a tener varias caras nuevas, si es de su agrado, si se sienten cómodos, por favor abran sus cámaras. La idea es que antes de ingresar con la clase, con la masterclass, pues todos nos conozcamos, que sepamos un poquito de todos y así podemos crear una pequeña comunidad, que es lo que se quiere. El día de hoy vamos a tener más adelante pues pueden salir cosas increíbles de este grupo. No sé quién quisiera empezar, por ahí vi que de los voluntarios fue Andrés. Andrés, ¿cómo estás? Bueno, nos estamos conociendo ahora. Te contacté por LinkedIn, la verdad, y qué bueno que puedes participar. Si quieres y es de tu agrado, puedes abrir la cámara o simplemente hablarnos por el microfonito. Bueno, parece que Andrés no está. No se escucha, Diana. Ahora sí. Tony, ¿cómo estás? Bueno, no, me parece que Andrés así está, no está. Andrés, bien, acá estás. Ahora sí, perfecto. Bueno, un gusto. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Puedes decir tu nombre? ¿De dónde vienes?
Mi nombre es Antonio, yo soy un UX UI designer. Soy de Sonora, México. Yo estudié diseño gráfico, tengo ya tiempo dedicándome al UX UI. No sé qué más. Me ha tocado trabajar con gente en la India, en Estados Unidos, México, en diferentes partes. Mucho gusto a todos.
Muchísimas gracias, Tony. Muchísimas gracias. Andrés, estabas hablando ahorita, pero perdón, no se escuchaba casi. No sé si ahora puedes. Creo que Andrés tiene mala conexión. Por allí vi que Laura Ardaneta prendió su cámara, gracias. Si gustas, nos puedes contar de dónde vienes.
Ahora sí.
Perfecto.
Pero me uní al final.
Ese acento es muy maracucho, ¿puede ser?
Sí.
Bien. Viste, aquí hay una persona que vive en mi ciudad, que es de mi ciudad, y yo no la conozco.
Ajá. Estudié diseño en Urbe.
Okay. O sea, que conoces a la profesora Helen.
No, o sea, la he escuchado hablar, pero no, o sea, yo me gradué hace mucho ya. Entonces ella empezó a dar clases mucho después, pero he tenido muchas pasantes de Urbe y todos me mencionan a Helen todo el tiempo.
Ah, bueno, Helen, viste, si estás por ahí, ya estoy famosita,
Espero que cosas buenas.
Mi tutora.
No, claro.
Ella fue mi tutora por 6 meses corridos de lo que daban en Urbe. Ella junto con Claudio, que también es súper increíble, que es su esposo, fueron los encargados allí de impartir lo que fue, no me acuerdo ahorita el nombre, pero era de marketing y todo eso, muy bueno.
De negocios digitales.
Eres diseñadora, ¿no?
Sí.
Perfecto, buenísimo. Espero que la experiencia del día de hoy te ayude y te nutra bastante. Acá en parte del equipo pues, puedes ver a Carlos, Diana. Ellos pertenecen al crew de Stargety y son las personas también que te van a guiar y los van a guiar en todo este proceso. Y vamos a pasar ahora con quien sería después, ya después de conocernos todos un poco, vamos a pasar con Demerson, que allí sí va a ser todo totalmente en inglés. Y ya allí va a cambiar esto de los latinos y nos cambiamos el chip y nos metemos el chip gringo. Bien, Helen, ahora sí, abriste la cámara. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, ¿cómo están? Gusto, un placer estar aquí con ustedes.
Igualmente. Bueno, Helen es de acá, de mi ciudad también. Como dije anteriormente, ella es profesora actualmente de varias materias con referencia a diseño gráfico y también da cursos especializados en marketing y también en firma. O sea, ahorita estás dando una
ahorita tengo un diplomado en Urbe nuevo.
No
ya
me
va para
acuerdo
la
de ese
segunda
nombre,
corte.
diplomado. Ok, gracias.
Ajá, tengo un diplomado que va para la segunda corte de UX UI, ajá. Va
Ok,
enfocado más en la parte de UI y la parte de aprender Figma y eso, pero sí, ya va para la segunda corte ahorita en octubre.
genial, espectacular. Bueno, entonces esto de Scrum me imagino que vas a estar en tu salsa, pues vas a estar allí. Bueno, ojalá también sea de nutrición todo esto y obviamente esto es una comunidad muy grande que estamos construyendo, Ellen, y obviamente sería bueno tomarte en cuenta. Ya después te vamos a explicar más o menos, ya después que salgamos de la clase, que bueno, que veamos las masterclass y todo eso, volvemos a hablar español y ahí sí como que bueno, vamos a tomar la información de todos y todo lo demás para, para ver qué sale bueno de todo esto. Obviamente cuando hay UX UI, Figma me acordé tuyo y obviamente te envié la invitación. Gracias por participar.
Gracias, gracias a ustedes.
Andrés, ahora sí, Andrés. Perfecto y claro.
Vamos a
Muchísimas
esperar un
gracias
minuto más
¿Cómo,
y
cómo?
vamos para la siguiente sala.
Ajá, ok, pero ya se van.
40 segundos.
Ok, vale. Ok, bueno, ya vamos a ingresar a lo que sería la sala. Andrés, me decías, disculpa.
No, que gracias por la invitación, de verdad que sí.
Perfecto. ¿Cuánto tiempo tienes con diseño?
Yo con diseño, de manera autodidacta, porque el cariño comenzó autodidacta desde 2017 y después en 2019 estudié en Argentina y me gradué en 2021 en pandemia, desde 2021 aproximadamente, 2021-2022.
Perfecto, entonces. Bueno, los demás chicos que no los pude poner acá para que nos pudiéramos saludar. Bueno, aquí veo caras conocidas. Está Samantha, está Luis Eduardo. ¿Cómo estás, Luis? Está Iván Cuevas, claramente Tony. Sean bienvenidos nuevamente. Ustedes saben que esta es su casa. Y vamos a pasar ahora a continuación. Por ahí me faltaron otras personas por saludar. Perdón, Saúl, hola. Laura, hola. Isabel, hola. Enrique, también está Enrique por acá, hola. Ya después, bueno, vamos a volver a platicar en el otro break. Isabel, bienvenida. Siéntate como en casa. Ahorita vamos a pasar a lo que sería la clase, ya saben. Sáquense el chip. Ahora, a partir de este momento, somos gringos todos. Vamos a ir con Demerson, que es el especialista en Scrum y es lo que los va a nutrir en todo esto. Síganme si pueden, sigan a Carlos también. Acá, bueno, pueden interactuar dándole, bueno, ya ahí es intuitivo, le dan a la F y bajan.
Samantha, se quedó ahí en el lobby.
Voy. Está Diego. Samantha, come on.
Se acercan al circulito azul y le aprietan la letra F.
Creo que Samantha tiene problemas de conectividad. Tú sabes que ella a veces ha tenido esos problemitas.
Sí.
Entonces,
Sí. Saúl, Helen se pueden acercar al portal y ajá. Tienen que presionar la letra F.
Letra F, correcto. Enrique, por acá también, lo mismo. Acércate por acá. Creo que Enrique también se quedó. Samantha.
We don't have enough chairs for everyone. Some people have to stand.
I don't mind to stand.
Yeah, me too. I like standing.
Enrique, acá en la sala número 1.
Enrique, pues como te moviste así, con las mismas Ahí está Samantha, ¿eh? Samantha nunca nos abandona. Samantha llega tarde, pero llega.
Llega, pero llega, sí.
Llega. Hello, Demerson.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello, welcome. Like Leila said, everything in here is going to be in English now. All right, so welcome everyone. I'm very glad that everyone could join us today. Hopefully, Demerson will have a couple of activities. Everyone is going to be very welcome to speak their minds, ask questions. Okay, we are here because we believe in continuous improvement of our product, our processes, and ourselves, right? And as our project grows in complexity and how we collaborate become as important as the work itself, right? So today we are very fortunate to have a special guest who doesn't just understand Scrum philosophy, but also knows how to turn principles into real world results, which is stronger teamwork, clear goals, and greater client value. So let's just not listen, let's engage, let's ask questions, and think about how to apply these ideas. So please join me in welcoming Demerson Neves. Demerson, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carlos, and the whole organization. It was very nice. I'm very glad to be here today. Very happy to meet you all. And a few things I want to make very clear from the get-go. First, if I'm speaking too fast, if I say something you don't understand, please ask me. Um, you can even try Spanish. I can maybe understand a little bit, but please make sure you don't have any questions you don't want to ask. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, the whole conversation we are going to have here is supposed to be a very open space. So really enjoy the time, open up your mind, ask questions, comment on anything you want to comment. Make sure you are heard as well, because I don't hold the whole information. I know a few things about what we're going to discuss today, but my intent here is to build that knowledge together. The whole knowledge that we are going to come out of the room today with is going to be something we are going to build together. You know a million times more about UX and UI than I do. So what I'm going to do is try to converge what I know about agility to what you know about UX, and then we are going to get something bigger out of that. Let me share my screen. I should also send you the link so you join the Figma board, but it doesn't need to be now. We can do that in a little bit. Um, first things first, my name is Demerson. I have been a Scrum Master for longer than I care to remember. If I tell you that I started working in IT proper in 2000, the year 2000, that's probably going to reveal my age. But yes, I started with IT in the year 2000. Then with Scrum and Agility, it was a little later than that. It was the first time I had the title of Scrum Master was 2013, but I was working with leadership and some small projects before that as well. Even though back then I didn't know those were Agility or Scrum, I was just following the flow, but I was involved a little before that. Let me show a little more about myself first, so you know whom you're speaking with. So, as I said, Demerson is my name. I live in Vancouver, in Canada, West Coast. If you've been to Seattle, it's very similar to Seattle, except with a little less sun. We have a very dark and rainy winter. Um, I've worked in several different companies before, but my longest standing point was HSBC, where I stayed for 8 years, from 2018 to 2016. But then I worked for Lululemon, worked for provincial health services, for some smaller companies as well, taking projects here and there, or being a full-time employee there. And now it's been almost 3 years. We are September 19, almost 3 years that I've been working at Creos. Creos is a startup from Toronto, that works on a software that helps evaluate mental health. So that's where I am at now. Have been enjoying my time there. Few other things. I have a few certifications. PMI, Scrum Alliance, Scrum Org, some of those, Kanban University, some of those institutes make for my certifications. The top important ones are those four. I have a few more, but those are I would say the most important ones as well. I am the owner of a Basenji, which is a very rare breed of dog. It's one of the ancient breeds, a primitive breed. What's unusual or unique about them is that they never bark. They make other noises, they are not silent, but they never bark. And that's my baby Lily here. And I am now the dad of a real human being. My daughter is just 5 months old, almost turning 6 months. So it's been a new adventure recently. I've been learning a lot of new things. And this is me in a nutshell. There's, if you have any other questions, if you are curious about anything, about certifications, about your path in your career, let me know. But I'll leave that for later. If you have questions, feel free to ask anytime. Now, I want to know a little more about who you are. And then three questions I want to ask every one of you. What your name is, although I can see your name in the platform, but where you are speaking from, and then a tricky question. If you can only use one single design tool forever from now on, what tool would that be? But except Figma, it has to be something else. You can answer in the chat. You can just type your answers. So I'll give you an example. And my tool would be Miro. So I just sent the answer. Demerson from Vancouver, Canada. And my tool would be Miro. How about yours?
I think you send it private to me only.
Oopsie.
Yeah, you need to send it to all.
Oopsie, let me do that. Yeah, my bad. Just did that again.
Yeah.
So who are you? Okay. Oh, there are more people joining. That's nice. Carlos from Columbus in Affinity. Nice. Caracas, Venezuela. Nice to see a neighbor here. I'm originally Brazilian, so Venezuela is just next to where I am from. Photoshop. Photoshop is a tool I've always wanted to learn, but never took the time to learn. Saul Miranda from Mexico City, Photoshop as well. Too many people saying Photoshop. That's tricky. Mariana, nice to meet you, Mexico City. Ivan, Leila, Venezuela as well. Oh,
Be
I didn't
careful
know you.
to be careful to not be sending me messages in private. Send it to all.
I fell into that mistake.
Yeah, Samantha, Helen, you are sending me message to only myself.
Isabel from Colombia, another neighbor. Laura Sofia, Maracaibo, Venezuela. In Premiere, I don't know that tool. Luis, Guadalajara. Jose, Oaxaca, Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, nice. Antonio, Sonora, Mexico. I don't know where Sonora is. Is is it West Coast?
It's down Arizona. It's in
Oh,
the
I see. Okay,
northeast.
right. Okay. All right, Laura, Adobe Premiere.
Adobe XD, it is a good tool. I forget it.
And Ricardo, London, not London, UK, London, Canada. There's a small town called London, Canada. I know because part of my family is from a very close region. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. I'll ask you more questions as we go, but let's progress a little bit here and get to the nitty gritty part of the presentation. Right, so this is the journey I want to invite you to follow along with me today. We just introduced ourselves. Again, if you have any questions, if you have anything you want to mention, feel free to. We are now moving to Scrum Essentials, where I'm going to talk to you about agility as a whole and specifically about the framework of Scrum. After that, we are going down here to talk about Lean UX. I imagine some of you have heard of Lean UX, but we are going to talk a little more about that. And Lean, just like Scrum and Agility, Lean UX is a whole field in itself. We could spend days talking about only Lean here. It's a very nice topic, has a very rich history, and I hope I can condense some of those things in our chat today. But the idea is more inviting you to learn more. Then we are going to talk about achievements, some of the things you've done in the past or you are doing right now that you want to agilify, which means make that sound more accurate from the perspective of people from agile Scrum and that side of the game. And then talk a little bit about interviews, a few tips, a few things that I think are interesting if you are going on an interview as a designer or lead designer, architect, or something in that area, the creative area, but interviewing with people from an agile universe. Okay, let's move on to the first step, agile. This is interesting. Agile and Scrum, both they are words that get mixed up with several different things. And if you open an article in Medium, or if you go talk to someone in a coffee, someone in a company, even big companies, you hear lots of those words, but they seem to be unconnected. You either get unconnected thoughts or people think those things are agility while they are just small pieces of it. Agility in general is tiny. I'll talk about what agility is in a minute, but what it's not. Agility is none of those words here. Those are just tools, practices, um, and maybe ways of doing things, but they are not agility in itself. When you see Scrum here at the top, Scrum is just one framework under the Agile umbrella. One framework. But just like Scrum, there are many others. XP is another framework that stands for Extreme Programming. Nexus is another framework. Crystal is a very old, almost not used anymore methods. It's not a framework. What else? Kanban is a big one. Kanban is the one that has grown the most in the recent years, maybe post 2020. That's a method, and you can work with Kanban alone. You can work with Kanban and Scrum, or you can work with Kanban and any other methods or frameworks. It really works as a framework, just like pretty much like any tool in design. The tool is the frame where you put your work in and then do stuff there. The same happens with Scrum, with Kanban. Now, other things, Lean. We are going to talk about Lean because of Lean UX. Lean is more, originally, it was a concept that originated in the 40s. We are going to talk about that. But it's more a philosophy than anything else these days. How to do things lean. And then you have several different types of lean. You have lean UX, lean IT, lean manufacturing, several. More recent ones, lean HR, lean sales. The concept behind all of those is lean, but they can change vastly from field to field. And a few other interesting ones. Value stream mapping. Depending on who you talk to, they will bring those words and say, "Oh, my company is agile because we have a value stream mapped." No, it's not the definition of agility. Your company does one thing that is part of a whole, but it may not be agile. Value stream mapping is a way to show the work you are doing, visually and also physically, in a sense. Like bringing the work to a board, showing what is valuable, what is not, showing things that are priority versus things that should be left until you have some time in the future. So that's value stream mapping. It's not because you mapped your value stream that you are doing things agile. It's not because you adopted Scrum, the mechanics of Scrum, that you are doing things agile. There's a lot more to that. And at the same time, it's a lot less because agility as a concept is very small. You understand that in a little bit. I worked in companies before that they were very traditional, very, the post Second World War mentality. Like you get people to do a job, you get a designer, you give them 5 things to do, and you expect that done before the end of the week. But oh, I have questions. Oh, my work, I need to sit down and think because my work is creative. I don't care. I have these 5 things I want them at the end of the week. That is the very old concept and mentality of the post World War world. We still have that a lot. Not every company learned that work these days is more creative than not. That worked pretty well for factories, for example, where you put some pieces and some tools and some parts. It went through an assemble line, and at the end of the day, you had a full car assembled or full, I don't know, tool. That was fine, but with creativity, with design, with copywriting, with UX, the whole UX, the user experience, you just don't give pieces and expect a result at the end of the day. There is more to it. Some companies adopt story points. That's a big one. They say, "Oh, my work is defined in story points, so I am agile." That's not necessarily true. So much so that story points is a very old concept. Not everyone uses them anymore. There are many flaws with story points. They have been useful for many years, but there are better ways to do it, to size the work you are going to do. All of those things stand true. They are part of agility, but they are not agility in itself. Let me show you something more here. Well, first, before showing you more, this is a nice slide. I want some help here. There is a sticky note here, and I hope you have access to Figma now. Carlos, if I just share the link, will they have access to it, or do we need to do anything else?
No, that's it. Please click on the link. I just put it in the chat, and we should start seeing people coming in.
Awesome.
Okay, I see Andres. I see. Let's wait for a second until everyone can join. I see 3 people anonymous. Saul, Andres. Please don't be anonymous so we can distinguish who is who. If you can, please assign your names. Okay, we have 9 people, 11, 12. Okay, good. We are on section number 6. Okay, I think we have enough.
All right. Very simple question I have, and I need some help from all of you. There's a sticky note here. You can create another one, as many as you want. And I'm going to talk about the Shuhari method. Shuhari is a concept that comes from martial arts, but it's very used in agility, especially in training, in education, learning in general. Um, it's divided in 3 parts. Shu is when you are learning the rules of anything. You are learning to, I don't know, to play some instrument. You are learning the rules of agility. You are learning a new tool like Figma, things like that. You are learning the tool. So there's lots you don't know yet. There's lots you already have an idea. Ha is a different concept. It's when you already know so much that you can teach other people. You can talk about a subject or about an ability you have, and people learn from you. You don't know every single thing, but you know enough that you can share your knowledge. And re is when you know so much that you actually change the thing. You know, for example, a dance. You know how to make a. You are a very good dancer, and you are so good that you change the dance into steps that no one else tried before. So you change the concept of that dance. The same goes for tools. You know a tool so well that you know a different way to use it. You know agility so well that you can actually create new things that will help other people. What I want to ask your help with is to create a sticky and position it where you think you are in that transition, in that journey. Are you very far from Ha, so that you are very much to the left hand side, or are you a master and you know everything there is to know? I wouldn't say everything, but you know enough that you can change things, change concepts, and still make it true. To help you out, I'm going to position myself somewhere here, maybe. How about you? Where would you position yourself?
Okay, I think it's better to use like a +1 or something, like Diana did, because
Smaller.
the sticky notes are going to be too much.
That works. I love the whip here.
Yeah.
As you write your thoughts and share more, I will ask a few people just why you positioned yourself where you did. Let's see, Andres. Why do you think you are in the Ha? What do you know about agility that you are confident to say that? Or you're muted.
Oh, okay. My mistake. I thought it was about design, not specific.
Oh, not specifically agility. Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair.
I still have to learn a lot of things about it.
So where would you position yourself? Next to Shu?
Yes, because I still have a lot to learn.
Okay, okay. hold on to that thought. I'm going to ask you another question in a few minutes. Let's see, Saul. Why do you think you are in the ha stage? And does the question mark make a difference?
The question mark is me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let me, if I can see the file and the room at the same time. Okay. Why I put it myself in ha? Break the rules? Okay.
Yeah.
It has been a problem by myself because always I trying to make the things different in a different way.
Mhm.
So sometimes there is no process to get into that box. I always think out of the box and I propose always different solutions for a problem. So not all the people that agree with that, but it's the way I am.
Sounds like you would be doing well in a designing position. Have you thought about that?
No, well, I have been working as a UX UI designer for the last 7 years, but I have been
I
working as
imagine.
designer for the last 15 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
being creative, it was different. Where we are talking about the 2010, for example, so 2012. So now it is really different. So
Yeah.
maybe there are different rules. So
Everyone who works in IT fields, in all spectrum of IT, have been feeling a lot of difference in the last few years, especially now with AI invading everywhere.
yeah,
Okay, I like what you said, and I'll come back to that as well. One more, just so we close. Ivan, why do you say you are in the shoe stage?
Because I have worked only with Scrum. When I
Mm,
did it, it seemed quite simple to me, but I suppose there are still some things I should learn before I can say that I mastered.
very nice. Very nice. Um, I would pick up everyone here and move a little more to the right, but for one reason. And let me show what that reason is. Agility in itself is a concept that originated in the year 2000 or close to the year 2000. It became bigger in the year 2000, I would say. And that happened with something that was called the Agile Manifesto, which is this document here. You have access to it. Um, I'll show you that. This is the Agile Manifesto. You can see easily that that's a page from the 90s. It's a static page, there is nothing to it. But the concept of agility came from those 17 people who were prominent people in IT back in the beginning of the century. And they came up with an agreement that defines agility. And that agreement is very simple: individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That means people and the way people communicate is a lot more important than the practices and the tools we use. It's not because we use Jira that we are agile, but if we have a very nice, coherent team that works nicely together, that in itself shows that agility has at least started. Working software over comprehensive documentation. It doesn't matter if you have hundreds of pages of documentation about an idea if you don't have a line of code working. The opposite is true. If you have a simple software that has zero documentation, you are in trouble because you don't have the documentation for that, but at least you have something. You are closer to being agile than not. customer collaboration over contract negotiation. It's not about the money. It's not about agreeing on the terms of how the work is going to be. It's about trust. It's about collaborating, working together. I know it's not very easy, especially if you worked as a freelancer in the past. Sometimes it's painful, it's a big headache, but the concept of trusting each other, working not as a vendor and a client, but as two companies working together or two individuals working together is a lot more important than what's written. And responding to change, that is probably the biggest one. Responding to change over following a plan. With creative work of any sorts, things change all the time. And we like those changes. We like when we are, I don't know, 1 month before the launch of a big feature, but we discover something new that is super important and we need to make a change. If we discover that, that means we are closer to generating value. So one of the concepts of the agile mindset is to embrace change, see change as an opportunity. And all that aligns with what agility really is. Processes and tools, Jira, Scrum, Kanban, Azure DevOps, whatever tool you have, are just those tools or processes. It's not agility in itself. Outside that layer, there's something much more important, that is behavior. How you act when you are faced with challenges. If you have the best and most modern tools, but at the first problem you start screaming to someone and start demanding things to be done and don't respect each other, then you are not agile. Doesn't matter what you have. On top of that layer, what guides the behavior are the principles. And the principles or are what define how you do stuff. If you believe the principles, you behave as a more respectful person, a more collaborative person, a more focused person, or the opposite is true. If you don't believe those principles, if you work in a company that sells something you hate, I don't know, you don't like alcohol and you work in a company that sells beverages, you're not going to work the best you can. So that in itself is against the principles of the company. Your principles are different from the ones in the company. Outside that layer, there is the values, which is even more in depth, what you really believe in life, not only work related. The values you respect, the values you understand as being true. Can be anything, can be kindness. If you are a person who has kindness as a personal value, and you go to work in a company that is one of those dog eat dog kind of company that you have to fight your way in, you fight with your colleagues, otherwise you miss out. You don't have that. I wouldn't even say lack of respect, but lack of kindness. And you are a person who value that, you are going to suffer. And finally, outside all that, the only thing that can change even the values is the mentality, the way you see the world. So those feelings, those approaches you take are all under the umbrella of mentality. And then back to the Agile Manifesto, those four things: responding to change, valuing customer collaboration, um, even I would say even something more in depth, collaborating with more people, not only your customers, but your colleagues as well. All those are part of the mentality and the values or in the principles of agility. If you have only the mentality and the values, even if you don't work in Scrum, if you don't have a Kanban, if you don't work with Jira, you are doing things agile. Even if you don't know the rules, you have the underlying foundation. It's a little heavy of a slide, but talking only about Scrum, it's going to narrow down our vision here. Scrum happens to be one of the many frameworks that is under the Agile umbrella, under that concept, the mentality, the values of agility. And it also happens to be the biggest one. That's why you probably worked at least in a company that claims to work in Scrum or have a Scrum framework. The thing about Scrum is that there are two parts in Scrum. There is the whole thing I just talked about the values, about the principles, about the way to do things. That's more a philosophy than anything else, and that's what characterizes Scrum as being agile. And there is the other side of Scrum, which is the mechanics of Scrum. How long each of the meetings take, how long or what are the artifacts you generate, what are the meetings you have. All those things are more the mechanic. And what is very common is for companies to adopt all the mechanics. So they have a sprint planning on day one, they have daily scrums every day after that, they have a retrospective, they have a review. All that happens, but the foundation doesn't respect what Scrum sells. And sell in a good way, what Scrum values. It doesn't respect the things that are not tangible so much. Out of the entire conversation we are having today, if there is one slide I'm going to ask you to really uh, internalize, this is the slide. This is what encompasses everything that is related to Scrum. Not the time every event takes, not the participants, not who does what. It's this. The 5 values of Scrum and empiricism. To start with the 5 values, Scrum defends and believes that to do any type of work, you have to respect people and be respected by them. If you are respected, if you are in a place where you feel respected, then you have courage to take action, courage to do things, to say the truth. For example, you see something horrible happening. If you don't feel respected, you probably be reticent to say something. If you feel respected in the environment, you probably feel a lot more encouraged to say what you want to say. Say that thing was wrong, or this design is horrible. Never mix blue and red. Things like that. You'll be more courageous. When you are courageous to do things, to speak up, to take action, then you are open to do things and also to feedback. You are open to receive feedback. You are open to give ideas because you feel respected, you feel courageous, you share more. And when you share, when you are open to do things differently if you need, you can create focus. And then you focus on one task or an entire project, but you focus on something valuable. And only when you are feeling really focused and put your energy into something that you can truly commit to that. Truly say, I'm part of this team, I'm part of this squad, I'm part of this project, and I'm doing my best to make this thing launch, this thing fly. So this is what Scrum believes. If the company has everything else but doesn't align with those values, they can try to run Scrum, but they will run into issues. They'll have sooner or later they'll have issues, and that's related to the behavioral aspect. The other part, the part that is more tangible, even in behavior, is empiricism. And you are probably a lot more comfortable and familiar with empiricism than you think you are. Empiricism really means working on something that you can explore, um, try, and after you try, you decide what to do and what not to do. In a more uh, corporative language, you are transparent with everything you do, so people know what you are doing and you know what people are doing, so you can collaborate because you are open, you have focus, and you respect, and you have courage, and you are committed. So you are transparent and you can collaborate with someone else, and you are also open for someone else to collaborate with your work. When you have that, you are free to inspect things, to create hypotheses, to create experiments, to think, my user always clicks on the buttons starting from top left. If it always happens that way, maybe if I put my main button, my open button in the top left, I'm going to get more clicks. So let me try that, and then you create that hypothesis and inspect the results. You check after 2 weeks. Okay, now that my button is in the correct position, I got 10% more clicks than before. So my hypothesis was valid. That worked, meaning you adapted well. Now, if you position your button in the same spot, but then your clicks go down 40%, that in itself is not bad. You learned something. You learned that even though you thought that was the best place, for some reason it's not. So you adapt again. You are transparent. Everyone knows what you are doing. You inspect the results of your experiments and you adapt accordingly. That is Scrum. Those experiments, that mentality of doing all that is what Scrum really is. And those things are the things most companies fail to embrace. They want just the mechanical parts, which is the mechanical parts. Each one of them have a reason to exist. They make something easier or they prevent an issue. But you can only make something easier if you know what you're looking for. And in Scrum, you are looking for this. You are looking for being transparent and working in a transparent environment, inspecting the results of your experiments and adapting according to the results. Results can be good or bad. The adaptation is what is important. Right, questions so far? Don't forget, this is the most important slide.
We are always close to our first 10-minute break. If you have questions, please type it in the chat, either English or Spanish. Feel free. I will translate for you guys if you don't feel comfortable asking. After the questions, we will have a 10-minute break, and then we can continue. Okay?
Awesome. This is also the part you don't see a lot in Scrum training courses, in workshops. They go straight to the next part. I'll show you the next part and what it looks like. Oh, that's just a little more about the Scrum parts, but there is a better slide here. There you go. This is the famous one. That's what you see mostly everywhere. I don't see any questions so far, so should we stop? Question for you, Carlos.
Yes, we can. Yes, we will have the recording for this later. We can send you that. Saul is there some way to adapt the design process, design thinking in Scrum?
There is. There are actually millions of ways to do that. Almost every different team does that differently. So I recently worked with a team of copywriters, and the way they used design thinking for the company was very different, in the sense that they did that in a kind of a black box for the entire company, very non-transparent. But for them in the team, it was very nice. They shared every single copy they were doing, copies for a chatbot back before ChatGPT. So they would share all the copies and come back with the different personalities for the answers. So the company sold, manufactured clothes and sportish clothes basically. So what they would do is, if it's a more formal type of sport, something like rugby or um, polo. I don't know if they have polo, but a more formal golf, polo, sports like that, the personality would be very serious. If it was a more fun type of sport like volleyball, like basketball, things like that, the personality would be a lot more friendly, a lot more playful. But all that happened in several workshops that they had every single week. They created in the team, they created workshops to talk about the personalities and the copies. So, in a nutshell, there are millions of different ways to adapt. In everything is fit to Scrum. You can work together. I'm going to talk a little more about two ideas, the two most common ideas that you can implement, but there are more. Be be aware that there are more.
All right. If there's no questions, we can take a break. I'll meet you guys here in 10 minutes. And in the meantime, feel free to wake up, go for some water, walk up, just stretch the legs. Come back here in 10 minutes. We will start with the class again.
Awesome.
Okay?
See you in 10. Make sure you stretch.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you have questions, also drop them in the chat. I'll be taking a look. parts of Scrum. And this slide here is something you've probably seen before. Those are just the elements that compound the Scrum framework. Product backlog, and I'll talk about each one where they fit exactly. Product backlog, sprint backlog, and the increment, the three of them together are the artifacts of Scrum. Since the 2020 change in the Scrum Guide, the artifacts also have a commitment. It's just a way to make sure they are going the right way, they are going progressing correctly. The product backlog has the product goal, meaning the entire product we are working with must have a goal, must have a single goal. Not the short-term goal, it's usually a very long-term goal, a 2-year goal, 5-year goal. The sprint backlog, which is this here, has the sprint goal. That is the objective of the next short iteration. And the iteration can be anything smaller than 30 days. 30 days is the maximum. Anything shorter than that works. Most companies have 2 weeks sprints. And the sprint goal is just the objective for those 2 weeks or 1 week or 1 day, whatever you have. And the increment, which is what we deliver at the end of the sprint, the tangible work, the software working, the design ready to be consumed, that has the definition of done. The definition of done is a list of things that every piece of work must adhere to, must respond to. So every piece of work must be documented, is a good example of a definition of done item. Every piece of work must be tested, is another example. Every piece of work must adhere to the compliance and regulations requirements. That's another good example of a thing that is in the definition of done. Those three artifacts and their goals, they are part of the artifacts. The event, the moments where we convene with other people, the moments we have meetings are 4 or 5, depending on the view. I say 4 or 5 because the sprint planning that happens here on the first day of a sprint, the daily scrum, which is that 15-minute meeting that people call stand up or catch up, there are many names. The real name is daily scrum. The sprint review, which is when you show the work done to all the stakeholders and collect feedback, and the sprint retrospective, which is when you gather with the team and talk about how to improve as a team. Those 4 events, those 4 meetings, along with the sprint itself, which is the container for the 4, they are the events. So 5 events, 3 artifacts, and 3 accountabilities that we used to call roles, but nowadays the name is accountability. Product owner, Scrum Master, developers. Product owner is the person who decides what pieces of the product backlog will be worked on in the next few days, in the next sprint. The product backlog is the whole list of things you want to do in your product. But every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, every sprint, you have to do a small part of that. The product owner is the person who decides what is the most valuable thing to do in that sprint. The Scrum Master is the person who ensures the whole process is empirical. 2 things, that the whole process is empirical and also that the team improves constantly, continuous improvement, Kaizen. And then the developers. Developers is just the title for everyone else, regardless of occupation. Can be a business analyst, can be UX designer, a developer, QA analyst, anything. Copywriter. If you go outside the software development, can be a lawyer, maybe, can be any position that works in a Scrum team. They would be the developers. This is what most questions relate to. How long is a sprint planning supposed to be? A sprint planning is supposed to be 8 hours for a sprint of 30 days. Those questions, honestly, you can Google them and that's fine. You are okay. How long is the daily scrum supposed to be? It's always 15 minutes or less. Doesn't really matter too much. There is a reason why it's not 2 hours in the daily scrum. The reason is that the shorter the meeting is, the less attention span you cause. People really focus. That's why it's only 15 minutes. But what happens if it's 20 minutes? Nothing. It's not going to change too much. If it's 17 minutes instead of 15, doesn't make a difference. All those things, all those the reasons for those events, the accountabilities and the artifacts, they have reasons, but they are not as important as what we said before. And let me ask someone here randomly. Laura, just because you were the second to last to answer, what did we speak about before that were more important than the actual uh, physical elements of Scrum, the mechanical elements? Can you name one or two things? If Laura's back.
Maybe Laura's still in break?
Maybe. Let me ask someone else. How about Tony? Uh-oh.
Okay. Are we even live? Is everybody can hear us? Yeah, give us a like if you can hear us. Give us a like or
Yes,
jump
yes.
or the. Okay, okay. So we have
All
people
right.
in here.
So let me try Jocelyn.
Jocelyn?
I'm sorry for my English.
Sounds good enough.
As it's important to share talks in the Scrum because you could see different perspectives to solve in design and also share possible solutions.
Hmm. And what would you call that if you want to summarize that into something? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Can you repeat me the question, please?
Sure. If you want to summarize what you said into one thing, what would you say that is the summary? Maybe what I'm looking for is, for example, is that a value? Is that a mindset? Is that transparency? Maybe. Oh, muted again. Am I the only one not hearing?
Okay.
No, she's muted.
No,
Oh,
she's
okay.
muted. Yeah. Uh, Maybe because of the transparency for to solve the problems. Maybe.
That's important. That makes sense. If you don't have transparency, you don't see the problem. So how can you fix something you don't know? Good point. Can anyone name another one? Another point that is the core of Scrum? There are three. That's a tip. One is transparency. What are the other ones? Let me ask Andres. First, you make things clear, you make them transparent. Then what do you do?
You're on mute, Andres.
I do not remember what are called the points, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Fine,
think I think when you have when you have the problem, the next thing is, of course, find a solution in a optimized way.
Almost. You are correct in thought, but there is an intermediate step. First, you make things transparent, like Jocelyn said. Then, once you see the whole thing there, you have to see what is the problem. You have to identify the problem. That's when you inspect. So
Okay.
transparency inspection. And then once you inspect and know exactly what's going on, then you do what you said, which is the adaptation, the fixing of the problem. You have the problem, you have a bunch of things going on. You analyze the problem, identify it, so you're inspecting, and then you change or you fix or you remove the problem. That is adapting. So transparency, inspection, adaptation. That is what is really important. All these things here, if you Google in 5 minutes, you learn. But I wouldn't recommend Googling. Instead of that, read the Scrum Guide. The Scrum Guide is the foundation of Scrum. The definition of everything that Scrum has is in only 13 pages, very short. You can read that in half an hour. And there is a link for the Scrum Guide at the end. So no frets.
Okay.
Questions? How are we? I saw someone here, I think it was Mariana. She mentioned transparency inspection adaptation. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on then. That relates a little more to what, let me just reposition the screen to make it a little more visible. Okay, just a second. Okay, so I hope you can read that. If it's too small, maybe this is better. This is more related to what Saul mentioned. Where does design thinking fit in your Scrum framework? Or better yet, how can you make Scrum fit with your design thinking stages? There are three main stages in design thinking, which is understanding, then I forgot what the second one is. I forgot the second one. And then materialize things, make things happen. Those three stages have several phases, but how do you do that today in your work? For that, um, just place, just speak up. It's easier. First, do you have the events and the artifacts in your project or in your previous projects? If so, can you give me an example? Let me ask someone. Saul, because you brought it up, did you have the 5 elements or the 5 events in Scrum?
5 elements in the Scrum? Are you
The five
meaning?
events. The 5 events: the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, the sprint review, and the sprint retrospective.
According with my work?
Mm-hmm.
How do you mean I'm gonna set up my work in this timeline?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea. Did you have, for example, let's say, a sprint planning to start the work of the sprint?
hmm Well, I'm gonna say it how I do it or how I
Mm-hmm.
used to do. First of all, I have a meeting with the stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
and then we define these steps in a timeline. How I'm gonna how I'm gonna how I gonna do first? Well, I'm gonna make interviews, for example, with users
Right.
to make empathize with users, create user profiles. But this is an activity I'm gonna do in a certain timeline in the Scrum.
Right.
Maybe it's gonna take 2 weeks. That's as much, I think. then there is another steps in the process, creating diagram process, workflows.
Right.
But this is another activity in the timeline. It is not the same.
Okay, I know exactly what you're mentioning, and I think 2 slides from now, I believe, or the next slide is showing what you just said. Hold on to that, and I'll get back to you when we go to the next slide. I want to show you something that may be interesting. I'll just ask someone else randomly. Samantha, do you or did you have daily scrums, the daily meetings in your projects?
Samantha?
Uh-oh. Let's move on to Ivan.
Yeah.
Is Ivan with us? Maybe not. Let's see who else we can get. Mariana. No.
No. Okay. we got a tough crowd this time.
Don't be shy, folks. Don't be shy. Andres, again, back to you. Do you or did you have daily scrums in your projects?
No, daily no. I mean, I guess we have weekly. We can say weekly.
Mm-hmm. How long was the sprint?
Mondays.
Mondays.
Sorry, what?
Mm-hmm. How long was the sprint usually?
As maximum 20 minutes.
Oh, no, but I mean the whole sprint. The beginning, usually 2 weeks or something like that.
I can't say because I'm not working on UX. I'm working in a different environment as a creative.
Right, got it.
Right now, I am a graphic designer and video motion designer also. So it's kind of different, but I do have a process, or we try to have a process, but it's different. That I just said to Leila that I do not like too much have this kind of process because for me is slower. We don't have deadlines, so it's time consuming and energy consuming because we do not have when we can finish or get things done. So I'm working to move on the next level, and for me that's UX UI designing.
Okay, so I have a.
Go ahead.
Before, I would like to ask you, Andres, do you work in an agency? Are you freelancing? What are you doing right now?
No, right now I'm working in an agency.
Okay, and this is a small agency or a large agency?
No, it's before this one where I'm working right now. The previous one was bigger. Right now I'm working on a smaller one with no more than 10 people.
Okay.
So every person has to complete a lot of too many tasks.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
Okay.
I guess it's like Demerson said, that sometimes companies do not adapt fully the methodology, so they leave some things aside and do not apply fully the methodology.
Yeah, in my experience, very small companies and very large companies fall in the same trap. Very small because they don't have people enough, they don't have resources enough, and very large because they have too many people saying different things, like consultants and different teams and so on. Okay. Let me show you something that may be interesting, especially for the discussion we are having. There are two main ways to adapt UX and UI designs and creative work that is not software development to Scrum. That includes design thinking. Two main ways. One of them is to do one sprint only for discovery. So that's when you conduct the researches, when you interview the stakeholders, interview users, you prototype, you have everything ready. And then at the end of the sprint, after 2 weeks or after a month, whatever the sprint, however long the sprint is, at the end you have two things. One is the preparation for the next sprint, preparation for the next 2 weeks, meaning you have to start again conducting new research, prototyping again, interviewing people again, all that. You repeat the work. That's one of the deliverables. The second deliverable is having the results of the entire research you did go into development. So that's where the development team actually picks up the work and starts coding. That's one way. You kind of split in two tracks. One track is only for design, research, and interviews and all that, wireframes and all that. The other track is only for development. The other model is harder to find, but has big advantages. The other model is a single track, meaning the entire work happens in one sprint as one team. So you do your research, you interview your stakeholders, you create a mock-up, you create a wireframe. In the same sprint, the developers pick up the result of our work and start coding as well. So you work a lot more together with the developers and everyone else in the team. The reason I personally prefer that because at the end of the time, 2 weeks, a month, whatever that is, at the end of the time you have the full scope of work completed. From inception, from when you are understanding the need to when you actually deliver the code working. But it's harder because what happens if you are a designer, you are sketching a wireframe, and the developer is just waiting for you and asking for more things and asking questions, and then you answer the questions, give them the design, but something changes. So it's a little more convoluted, a little harder to work with. But when you get a team to work in that model in an integrated sprint, that makes wonders because then you really have the work start and finish in that period. It's just you have to know a lot more your team members. You know the developers must trust a lot more the designers, the UX, the business analysts, the QA at the end have to trust everyone else because if anything delays, the QAs will be in trouble, a little more complex. But if you can squeeze the whole design thinking with the coding and the tests within the sprint, that's the holy grail, I would say, of Scrum, but not very common to find.
I have experience working with this model, and I can see what you're saying, Demerson. And one tip that I can give everyone to try not to fall in this trap is design should be first. And what I mean with this, design should be at least 2 or 3 sprints ahead. So you have enough time for conducting research, to do user journeys, to prototype, to iterate, test, and go back and do another usability test if needed. So you have enough, bandwidth, enough distance to the developers So they are not waiting on you all the time, because a lot of the times when you are new in an organization and you are trying to either include design or make the developers to be more conscious about the UX practice in itself, uh, you are going to hit a lot of walls and a lot of resistance from teams that are just developers. So what happens is that there are going to be uh, resistant to waiting on you. And oftentimes, they are not going to wait. They are going to go ahead with whatever solution they think it's the best. It is the most feasible. It is the faster one to produce. And that tends to be more costly for the business, because sometimes those decisions, those solutions are not either well implemented or they are not tested with the user. So what happens is that you have to go back, ask questions, do some edits, make adjustments, and then go back to the developers again. So that's my 2 cents for this one. I have used it. I currently use it, but I always try to be ahead 2 or 3 sprints from the development.
In addition to that, and also piggybacking in Saul's question, how to manage the iterations, one thing that helps a lot with that is when the entire management, not only the team, expect failure and treat failure as natural. If you expect failure to happen and that's not a problem, you are learning in the process, then you can have shorter sprints, manage the iterations in a way that is not 1 full month but 2 weeks. That's normal. And if you fail to deliver something that works, you didn't learn enough, you start again. But then, as Carlos said, what company is really comfortable with delaying that, with having the whole work of 2 weeks being not wasted, but the only fruitful thing being learning? They want code, they want software working. So it's hard. There's a balance, and that's how you can and must try to organize these sprints, the iterations. Sometimes it depends on the client, on product owner, and it breaks the original timeline for sure. Clients that change requests, product owners that are not really familiar with the product, that's very hard. That is one of the dysfunctions, and comes back to trust. If this starts happening, are you going to trust your product owner, for example? Tough. Let me go to the next one. It's just the next step. Now we are going to Lean UX. As I said, Lean UX is a very broad concept, so I'm just really penciling. Lean UX comes from Lean, pure Lean, and Lean was a concept that originated in Toyota after the war, between the end and after the war, the Second World War, as a way to improve manufacture, as a way to produce cars with less cost, less waste, and more improvements, I would say. The essence, as it's written here, is based on two things: less waste. You don't waste time, you don't waste resources, you don't waste people, efforts, and continuously improving. You always do things in a better way. But as I mentioned before, there are several leans. Lean is the concept, but then there is Lean Healthcare, Lean Startup, which is a very nice book, Lean UX, and that's us here, Lean UX. There are a few things that define Lean UX. The first thing I want to mention is those two books are awesome. The second one is more for entrepreneurship. The first one is really Lean UX, really related to design. If you haven't had a chance to read at least the first one, take a look. Um, Also, one of the certifications at Scrum Org, which is one of the two companies that run Scrum, Scrum Org and Scrum Alliance, one of the certifications that is called PSI, Professional Scrum. What's the I for? PSI, Professional Scrum. I'll take a look. I forgot what the I is for. The certification is based on that book, so it's for designers, and creative people. I haven't taken that certification yet, but I have my eye on it. The core of Lean UX falls back to the same values we discussed in Scrum. Feedback as early as possible. So you try to learn as fast as you can, even if the learning is a failure, even if the result of your experiment doesn't bring a good result. Hypothesis driven work, exactly the expect adapt phase of Scrum, of the this core of Scrum. You create an assumption, you think a button somewhere should be X color. You formulate a hypothesis to why there is, and you run an experiment. Create minimal viable products, MVPs. That's basic. That's the core of Lean UX. You don't try to create a monster of a solution that does everything. You create the most basic, the smaller working thing first. You resolve just the problem you are targeted with. And after that, you improve. After that, you continuously improve. But one thing at a time. Don't try to do too much at once. Continuously discover, and so you continuously do a research, you continuously learn about the products, learn about the behavior of the customers, of the users, and especially measure. You have to create metrics. If you don't have metrics to learn, to improve the learnings you are reaching, you won't know what to do in 3-4 months time, or even shorter than that. In 2 sprints, you forget what was the first hypothesis, and if that worked or not. So those are the core concepts of Lean UX. But as I said, there's a lot more to it. You can explore each one of those concepts a lot, and this book is a very good starting point if you haven't read it yet. Has anyone read that book? No, new to you. I recommend. I'm going a little faster here in the Lean UX because there's something else I want to do. So I'll just give an example. Assumptions, hypothesis, and experiments. There are 3 examples here. I'll just pick the first one. You work at Spotify and you have an idea that if you create mood-based playlists, playlist covers, that will be nice for the users, for Spotify users. Meaning that if the person is hearing some heavy metal rock, the mood is usually energetic, strong. So there will be a strong energetic image in that playlist. If they are listening to soul music, it's usually calmer. They want to relax. So you change that according to the mood. So you assume that's a good idea. What would be the hypothesis for that? The hypothesis is just that template. I believe that having a mood-based playlist cover for who is the audience? For all the Spotify listeners, for Spotify listeners in Mexico, for Spotify listeners who like Eurodance music. What is your public? What is your target? So you believe that cover for that public specifically will result in more people enjoying playlists, more people creating personal playlists, whatever you think is going to happen, whatever benefit you're going to create. And then what is the metric? How do you know that? you can say, for example, that after a month doing that experiment, you expect at least 10% increase in personal playlists in Spotify. That is the hypothesis. You run that, you run the smaller possible experiment. The smaller possible can be segregated in effort. So, for example, only people who have a calmer, quieter playlist will have an image. So you just have to create one image. Or location wise, so people in one country only will have that. You don't need to roll out to the entire population of Spotify listeners. Or this is too much, maybe instead of a whole image you have just um, I don't know, a message sent to the customers. Maybe that's easier. So what is the experiment you are going to run? You run that experiment for whatever length of time you think is appropriate, and then you measure the results. 10% increase, awesome. Your experiment, your assumption was right, your hypothesis proved correct, and your experiment was a success. That's it. That's what Scrum is about, and that's what Lean UX about. Lean UX especially. Not Scrum is about those types of assumption, hypothesis experiments for everything. Lean UX is dedicated to user experience. I'm going to the next one. If you have any questions, please interrupt me anytime. This was Lean UX, and I really just glossed over it because I think the next part is more important, and we are going short in time. Okay. Agilifying your achievements. This is a lot more about mentality and mindset of how you write your resume and how you speak in an interview than anything else. Remember that slide I said was the most important? Transparency, inspection, adaptation. That is how you are going to frame what you write on your resume and frame how you speak in interviews. That is what whoever is interviewing you we want to hear. It's not about the keywords though. Don't just say I inspected a lot, I adapted a lot, I was transparent. It has to have meaning. How were you transparent in your actions? Did you share your work with everyone? How did you share it? How was that really valuable to someone else? How did you make easy for everyone working with you to inspect that? Did you use a tool like Figma? Was that available to everyone else or only you had a license? Think about it. But it's about those things, but with meaning behind. The Agile Manifesto, there's a link here as well, but those four things that we mentioned, working with people, adapting to change, being ready to change, working with customers as well, having working software as your primary goal. That is what sets the tone for whatever you write in your resume and whatever you say in the interviews. This is just a little tip. Be careful with misuse terminology. See if the person is picky, if they are picky, they will ask you questions about why did you say grooming? What is grooming for you? Why not refinement? But most people won't care much about that. This is just a quick tip, but not as important. Now, this is a lot more important. Focus on the experiments. Focus on how you had an idea, you formulated an assumption, how you created a hypothesis based on your assumption, and how you measured the results of your experiments. That is the core. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. Let's see if we can do something about it. This is just for you to use as a guide. The types of questions that you can ask yourself before writing anything, any new line in the resume, or speaking anything in interviews. What was the measurable outcome of what you did? the measurable. You don't say, I improved the conversion of the clicks. You say the conversion was improved by X% because of what I did. What action exactly did you do? You just helped, or did you actually do something? You designed something new. You created a hypothesis and then run an experiment with that. What was the action you did? Who did you collaborate with? The product owner, the developers, the other stakeholders, the customers. Who else did you help with your hypothesis validation? What was the assumption? That's so important for whoever is going to interview you. What is the assumption you had, and how did that assumption become an experiment? How did you formulate your hypothesis? How did you make that so valuable that everyone was on board in running an experiment and gauging the results? And finally, how did that improve anyone's lives? Was that useful for the customer, for your team, for yourself, maybe, for the entire company? Who benefited from your experiment? Did you bring more revenue to the company? If so, by how much? How much more money did you bring? Those 5 questions will be what guide you in anything you write on your resume. And also practice answering those questions whenever you have a chance, because those things are what really shine in an interview. They really make a difference. Simple, silly example. Instead of saying designed wireframes and prototypes for a newly launched website, that doesn't mean anything. You just helped with something with a wireframe. You can say, I collaborated with the product and the development teams in bi-weekly sprints. Maybe you don't even need to say that, but that's nice to say. In bi-weekly sprints to iteratively design and test website prototypes, reducing usability errors by 30% and or accelerating the MVP from 3 sprints to 1 sprint in average. The lead time was shortened in 2 sprints. What did you do and what was the result of what you did? What were the numbers? Numbers help telling the story a lot. They really shine. All right, your turn now. Carlos, how are we doing with time? Oh, you are muted.
I'm sorry. We still have 25 minutes.
Okay, so this is a short exercise. I'll ask everyone to think about an achievement you are proud of. Any achievement, anything you did in design that you are happy with the results. In 1 minute, write that down in a sticky note or just for yourself, but make sure you register because we are going to use that. Register that in a simple, silly way, in a way that doesn't bring a lot of information. Something like this. I designed a wireframe and a prototype that was used in a new website. And then in another minute, rewrite the same sentence, but now giving information, talking about the results, talking about the measurements, something that stands out to the eyes of the interviewer. So 2 minutes for that, really quick. One achievement, poorly written, and then very nicely written. We are going to use that in a second. Let me just turn on the light. It's kind of getting dark here. One sec. Okay, so we have a minute and a half to go. If you write in the chat, I can copy to the board. If you want to write directly to the board, Isabel, feel free to. Just make sure you register somewhere because we are going to use it. No problem. And we have around 30 seconds to go. All right, time is up. I see some people are still writing that. That's fine. You can carry on. I'll just move ahead because we are going to use those things in a minute. So going further, we are now going to the agile, not agilify, the agile leadership interviews. It's very similar. It's the same concept, except what you said in the resume has to now be said in the interview as well. You have to tell one story, and interviews are harder. Of course, you have to speak. You are under pressure. You don't have time to think too much. There is a method that I find useful to use in interviews, especially. Of course, the whole thing you have to prepare with a lot of time, so you internalize all that. The whole story you tell in the resume, you have to think in a way to convey in person. So a method I like that works well is the STAR method. It's a framework as well, so you use that with anything you want, but the transition resume to interview works well. And the goal, the main goal of the method is to highlight not what you did, the tasks, but the results you brought. How what you did was important or useful or valuable, not just what you did. And how does that work? It's a simple framework. So, starts with S as in star. You set the context. You say where you are. What made you decide to do what you did? What was the challenge you had? This is a good example. We had an issue with onboarding flow, and we're struggling with a very long turnaround time. The handoffs for design were taking too long. That was the situation we had, the position we were in. So when you write in the resume, when you speak in the interviews, keep that always in mind, the situation you had, why that was a problem. Why did you have to do something about it? Then comes the T, the task. Now that's the moment you say what you did. What was the action you took to help with the situation? In this case, as I was the lead designer, my task was reduce friction in design to development handoff. So it was taking too much time, and I identified, for example, where the time was being wasted. There was something that happens to me almost every week. There was a waiting period of time. What is a waiting period of time? Think, for example, you are coding something, you are a developer coding something, you finished your work. You spent maybe 2 hours coding, 4 hours coding. Now, between the time you finished and the time the QA analyst starts testing, there goes 2 days. So you spent 4 hours coding, the QA analyst spends another 2 hours testing. The entire time was supposed to be 6 hours, but now it's 3 days. 6 hours between coding and testing plus 2 days waiting. That time frame is not unusual. That time frame is actually good for most development companies. Where is that waste of time? You can say in the task here, a good thing to say is you identified that gap. You identified where the time was being wasted. Just as an example. Then what did you do? The action. One thing was the task. Now the action, the solution you are introducing. What did you do? Exactly. How did you fix the problem? Good tip here. Remember the transparency, inspection, adaptation? What was the task we just spoke about? The T was the inspection part. The action is the adaptation. Here is where you actually knew there was a problem, identified what the problem was causing, and now you are adapting, creating a solution, removing the problem. In the case of the example here, I introduced a short backlog refinement session. So in our example, with the backlog refinement, we got product owners, developers, and designers together in a room. Everyone discussed what was going on, and that accelerated the time to deliver the work. You didn't have to spend days figuring out what was going on, what was really requested, what the developers were waiting for. You do all that in a meeting, face to face, a lot quicker. So you can say that in the resume, you can say that in the interview. And finally, what is probably the most important, the result of what you did. Because I had that meeting, that refinement meeting with the entire team, instead of waiting 5 days to complete the work, now we do that in 2 days. Or the MVPs, now every MVP we deliver in average takes 1 sprint, not 3 sprints. Or now it takes 3 sprints instead of 5 sprints. What was the result? The metric, don't forget the numbers. The numbers are the most important part of the story. Without the numbers, it's too vague, too subjective. Remember the numbers. Sometimes you won't have numbers. Sometimes you did something that improved the mood of the company. How do you measure that? You don't, but you can collect feedback. You can say, I don't know how happier my work made people, but I got feedback from 5 people in the team and they all enjoyed it. They all liked it. I don't know by how much, but they liked. So seek ways to find measurements, even if they are subjective. Is that clear? Is the STAR method useful, you think? Anyone else? I see a couple of thumbs up. Let me see whoever has their cameras open. Andres, what did you think? Do you think it's useful?
I think it's very useful. I recently discovered that statistics helps a lot in a resume because
Absolutely.
it talks it shows what you did with another teams, and for anyone who don't know who you are or who you do in your job, I think it's important.
A tip that I would give you and everyone, if you can get money as a measurement, that's the best thing you can do. It's hard. Not all companies share that information, especially if you are in a project that is short. But if you can say the revenue went from $1,000 to $5,000 if the company allow you to do that, that's the best type of number you can show. Even if you just say, I helped improve 12% of the adherence of a project, and the project budget was $500,000. Anything that shows numbers help. Numbers, especially money. Especially money.
Another good measurement could be time. So, for instance,
Absolutely.
yeah, when you save time for someone else, you can quite easily translate time to money, to someone's salary, and that could be translated into money as well. So
Absolutely.
if you can get time or time saved, you can transform that into money.
It's funny because sometimes time is even more important than money itself. Sometimes a short turnaround time means you are going to sign a customer versus took too long, you lost the customer. So it's not only the money, it's the whole relationship going forward with that customer because you just saved time.
Yeah, also the reduce of the resources. When you are putting in a point of view of resources, for example, reduce the amount of time expended using this kind of server, or an example as well, like we buy together a new tool that can be used for more team members, and reduce the amount of money that they expend using different kind of tools. That also is like a way to say that you save money for the company, and they basically getting your salary for free. So that's a good thing that you expose that.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And if you can show all that remember something as well. If you can show all those aspects in different stories in your resume and then in the interview, for example, one project you helped reduce the cost. The other project you help increase the delivery time. You delivered more for something you did helped increase the delivery. The other project helped reduce the effort, so not as many people needed to do the same thing. Because of something you did, less people need to work on the same thing. Show different stories. That's going to be a very rich resume, and that's going to kind of incant whoever is going to interview you. Going to be a spellbinding story. Um, Another thing here, the second part. This is going to take us to a breakout room, but I want to explain what this exercise is first. Remember that achievement we just discussed that you created the sticky? You wrote the achievements in the sticky. I'm going to ask you to go to different breakout rooms. First in pairs. It doesn't need to be a breakout, but talk to one other person. Share your achievement and get some feedback on your achievement and give some feedback to their achievement. Very, very fast. 1 minute for that. The second part, we are going to now go to bigger breakout rooms in groups of 4. Those groups are going to quickly discuss the 4 achievements and select one achievement. With that achievement, we are going to go out of the breakout room and back here, and then we are going to share that main achievement. I want to see the achievements in a way that shows the results, the hypothesis, and how you experimented with that. What was the experiment that came to your mind when you did the thing you did? You achieved that. Is that clear? So first thing, select anyone, talk in pairs about your achievement, your sticky note. Second, when you understand and give some feedback and receive some feedback, go to a breakout room with 4 people. So we are now 14. So we should use 2 breakout rooms only, maybe 3 breakout rooms. talk about the 4 achievements and select one. The one you find most interesting.
Yeah, maybe 3 break rooms. So
yeah, that would work.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we are 4 groups of 4. Can go to number 2, number 3, and number 4. So I will try to name them. Okay. Let's see. Jocelyn, Eduardo, and Isabel can go to number 2.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but before you go, he's gone. But I'll say that he's back.
He's back. He's back. He's back. Okay.
Before you go, just something else I want to show. If you scroll all the way to the left here, below, well, first below slides 22, there are the stickies, and below slides 1 and 2, I believe, all the way here, there is an exercise called Agilifying Your Achievements, Agile Leadership Interviews. You can write here. You can use that space. Yeah.
Actually, if it's easier, I'm going to move the entire work area below the stickies.
Awesome. Even easier.
Yeah,
Thank you. So it's all under the stickies.
Yes, all under the stickies. Okay, now, Isabel, Jocelyn, and Luis Eduardo, room number 2, Jose Eduardo, and Laura, and Saul, room number 3. And who else? I need you guys to move.
All right, the first 3 to the room number 2. Jocelyn?
No, only question.
I love the question. I'll answer that.
Saúl dice que se tuvo que ir por el momento.
Okay. Jocelyn, tu pregunta. What is your question, Jocelyn?
She sent a long question that's very nice. It's a comment actually, but I'm going to comment on that in the chat.
Okay.
Right. So who else is left?
Andres, room number 3. Ivan, if you are here.
What is? Let me see.
Oh,
there. Luis Eduardo ya está en la sala 2. Pues falta Jocelyn y José Eduardo para que se muevan, por favor.
Listo. Y Laura se quedó aquí. Saúl tuvo que salir. ¿Y quién está a un lado de Saúl? ¿O solamente es una persona ahí? Sí, creo que solamente Saúl. Bueno, Laura y Saúl quedaron aquí.
Bueno, eso puede ser un equipo de 2, ¿no? We can move to the areas and see if they have any dots.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Laura, no sé qué onda, pero hay personas que ya me han escrito por privado. Samantha se tuvo que ir. pero va a haber todo grabado. Hay una chica de LinkedIn que se llama... bueno, es ella, Laura. Laura le salió un percance de momento y está, pero no está. Pero me escribió, entonces por eso es que no se mueve. Saúl dijo que en el chat le escribió, dijo que tenía que irse en el momento, así que bueno, no sé si va a volver. Bueno.
No, nada más iremos de chismosos.
Hicieron correr a José Eduardo y todo, que lo venía a conocer porque tampoco le he escuchado la voz toda la noche y corrió. Eduardo, un gusto.
Igualmente, un gusto.
No nos hemos podido practicar en toda la jornada porque
let's see the achievements we had. Our Scrum team to create a visual identity for my work where we seek to resolve how public sees us and convince stakeholders. That was from Jocelyn. Collaborate with stakeholders and developers to redesign the experience of the new national website for Subaru, from Luis. And I designed an application to enhance communication between restaurant branches and warehouses to streamline product supply. Awesome. Which one of those three are we going to work on? Which one did you choose? Or we can choose now.
That's a good question.
Which did you pick?
They choose the Subaru of the not the Subaru.
The Subaru one. Let's go. Okay. Now, let me go up and try to do something to make our lives easier. Okay, so two things we are going to do. We are going to run the star method and ask ourselves those 5 questions.
Okay.
Let me pick the example here. Where are we? Okay, copied, pasted, and I'm going to move that next to the questions. All right, so first question. In that scenario, what measurable outcome did that work change? Luis said he collaborated with stakeholders and helped redesign the experience. But what is the achievement there? Sounds good, but I want to see something more tangible. What actually happened? What was the measurable outcome?
Okay, it could be that the delivery time or the deadline of that project was very short, like 1 month and a half, and we deliver on time with a record time, because we usually need like 3 or 4 months for develop it, and we deliver in 1 month and a half or 2 months. I don't remember very well, but it was a very short deadline.
Very good. I love when you said a record time. That tells a whole story. So I already like it. I think the whole story is a lot better now. Let's see if there's anything we can still improve. What exact action did you take? You collaborated with stakeholders and developers to redesign, but did you do anything yourself? Did you design that yourself? Or did you do anything that was like an actual specific task?
Okay, I specifically collaborate in design and development. I talk with the stakeholders, specifically the product manager and the client, directly with client, the IT team and marketing team. I take all the needs of the project, and with that needs, I start to create my wireframes and then the high fidelity prototype.
How about in collaboration with the stakeholders, developers, and so on? I understood. We could probably think of a better word, but just so you get the gist of it, I understood the needs and redesigned the experience. Now you are taking ownership of the work. It's not, you were not part of it. You were the person who was there really. Even if you didn't do the whole work, but you owned it.
Okay.
Does that make a difference? Now, you mentioned who you collaborated with. That's great, stakeholders and developers. assumption. Was that an assumption, or was it really something that came to you and you didn't have an option to change? Was there a hypothesis to test?
Well, that's weird because probably that it was like a big REAC or high impact project, because it was like a national web of dealership from Subaru, and I basically put in on production all the TD4 or TD5 dealership in Mexico, and the main website. There is the brand website, and basically all these web dealership websites works at the same time in 1 month.
Right. So it doesn't sound like you had options. You had a delivery to do. You didn't have an opportunity to test. You only had to do it, right?
Yes.
If we explore more, I'm sure you had some options in the daily activities. Some things you decided by yourself, some things your gut feeling gave as the best option. But we don't need to go into details in the resume. Maybe in the interview, that's a good idea. When you are speaking with the person, you can say, I didn't have a saying whether I don't know, the website would look like, but a few things here and there, I made the call. I decided that the sub pages would be X, Y, Z, or the buttons would be rounded instead of square. I don't know, something you decided yourself. In the interview, that's important. So practice to yourself. But for the resume, it would be too lengthy. So maybe it doesn't make sense to add that. Okay. Now, how did it improve someone's lives? I imagine the national website for Subaru was a big thing, a whole big manufacturing company. Did that target end users, or was it only with resellers, for example?
Well, I think what I improve is the experience, because the last design of the company was like very complex and had a lot of information, but the information are not or were not very easy to find. So what we improve all this navigation and basically make like a new UI kit with more modern colors, with modern typographies and things like that. And obviously, we deliver very fast, so we need to basically have daily design checkups, daily reviews with the client, with the stakeholders, and things like that.
Very nice. So something you can easily say is that you improved the usability of the site, or the usability, the experience, the modernized the user experience as well. All those things are interesting to say and to add to the whole story. Is that better?
Okay.
Now,
also maybe you can include the something like a experience of the user was making engage more time in the web page, so they spend more time in the web page because the usability allowed them to navigate faster or in a better way in the web page.
Yeah, for the client was very important to the user see all the technologies and this whole security stuff that Subaru offered to their clients. So all this information are very large information. So we need to put in on a visible and improve the navigation to find this information, and obviously maintain the time in the website.
Very nice. Now, another question. Can we see the star here? The situation. Understood the needs and redesigned the experience. We didn't mention the situation, but in an interview, it's nice to say what you just mentioned. Usability was convoluted, users were a bit confused, there was an issue with navigation. Even though it was fast, it was confusing. So the situation is important in an interview. Why did you even start this? What was the problem? Then the task. The task is clear. You redesigned the experience. The action, how you adapted that, is also related to how you redesigned, but you can say in the interview how the launch experience was. It was in record time, but was it stressful? Was it were people happy? Or the problems in the launch? So you can elaborate a little more in the interview. And the results are what we did here, very clear.
Okay.
All right. Do we have time for a second one?
I think we are almost at the end, so sadly no.
Okay, no problem.
But I kept a sample in the group area, group number 1, of what is the evolution for this writing exercise. So this file is going to be open in case you want to go back and check it out, how I developed it. But yeah, please continue.
I only have one more slide to present here. We ended, but something I really want to say. These links, I looked into each one of them. They are things that are worth taking a look. The first one is the Scrum Guide, those 13 pages if you want to read all about Scrum. If you want, my recommendation is read that and write a resume based on that, especially those 3 things: inspection and what else? Can anyone remind me? I just forgot, sorry. There was something about inspection. What else? Another 2, I think.
Transparency.
Transparency. And what's the other one?
Adaptation.
Adaptation. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. Perfect. Read the Scrum Guide. That's going to give you lots of good ideas on how to write your story. The manifesto for Agile Manifesto, is really short, only 4 sentences. And then there are 12 principles. It's a second page, but it's worth, as I said, it sets the tone. What tone should you write in? You all know that it's the tone that says collaborate with people, be gentle with people, be kind, collaborate, work together. But read the 12 principles. It may give you some ideas as well. I mentioned there are 2 companies that run Scrum. One is the Scrum Org. This is the home site. The other is the Scrum Alliance. 2 different flavors, but they follow the same Scrum guide. So Scrum for them is the same. The other one I said I would mention is this PSU, not PSI, Professional Scrum with User Experience. That's a certification, an official certification. It has a cost and it's not cheap. It's about $200. But to my knowledge, that's the only certification that aligns Scrum and agility with UX knowledge. So think about that. Maybe in the future, that's not a very hard certification. So in the future, you can think. Link is here. Then this is a resource for everything Scrum, everything Agile. There are thousands of very curated articles. If you type here user experience, I'm sure there will be some results. Loading, come on. Maybe UX. Ah, there you go. UX, lots of results, including the certification I just mentioned. So keep that in mind if you want to learn more about Agility, Scrum, and so on. This is the Lean Startup, that book, if you want to take a look. It's more for entrepreneurship, but it's very nice. And this is the Lean UX. That one I recommend you read. That's it. Thank you very much. If I can help with anything connecting LinkedIn, ask questions, I'm very happy to talk about these things. But thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Emerson, for this amazing class. Guys, before you go, I'm going to paste here a link of a quick survey. Please let us know how we did it this time. Tell us what we can improve for the next class that we are planning. Next one is going to be about research. I know some of you are very into research, so that's going to be the next one. We don't have a date yet, but you can expect a similar format for that one. So looking forward to hear what you think about this one. Please open the link and fill in the survey. And that's it. Any questions? Any last comments from anyone? Did you enjoy it?
Be transparent. Don't forget.
Transparent,
Because
yeah.
if you didn't like it, be transparent, because then I can inspect and I can adapt for the next time.
Yes.
Should probably stop sharing.
Yep.
Okay. A few minutes for the survey.
Yeah. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel. Jocelyn has a question. And it's a very interesting question. The answer to that question is as many sprints as we need to keep the product alive. So as long as there is a product and as long as the product is improving, there will be sprints, years. The only reason to stop a sprint and stop the project itself is if the project dies, the product dies, or if there is no more maintenance, nothing else going on. So sometimes you sell a product that's like a web page, sometimes that there's nothing else to do. So you stop the sprints. Otherwise, they keep on forever because you always try to continuously improve. You always try to do something new.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's a lot of information. I know.
Yeah. Please, guys, open the survey. It's just a couple of questions.
Normalmente la dinámica que siempre hacíamos era que respondieran el cuestionario y los que iban respondiendo se iban a ir a la sala de al lado, es decir, la sala número 2. Entonces, de conclusión, responden el formulario que está en el chat, que ya Carlos lo dejó allí, y el que vaya respondiendo, el que ya esté listo, se va a la sala 2.